I'll be showing you how to install the Avengers Affinity Quest drop target assembly and illumination. To get together the tools you're going to need. You're going to need a flathead screwdriver, a nice small one like this one. It can be longer, but just the head needs to be small. A Phillips head screwdriver, some needle nose pliers, and then your nut driver. And we'll use this to take off the assembly off the back of the playfield. So if you don't have a handy one like this, you can just use your wrench set. That'll work as well. So when you get the drop target assembly and illumination, here's what comes in the kit. So you're going to get 3 of these stern drop targets, and they're, as you can see, they're translucent. And then you're going to get the illumination on the bracket with the little bulb that we're going to plug in. So the first thing you need to decide is if you're going to use the decals off the factory targets, which are black. They're the green ones here. Or if you're going to use these decals that are in your goodie bag inside the game. So you should make that decision, because if you're going to use the goodie bag ones, you need to get them out first. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to lift the playfield, and then we'll take a look at the drop target assembly itself. So the first step is going to be to take this connector off the board, and we're going to do that using this small screwdriver. This will just help you get it moving so you're not tugging too much on the wires. So you can just use it to pry just a little bit underneath, in between the header and the board connectors themselves. And then once you get it started, you can just start wiggling it off, and then it just comes right out. The next step, which is always a little bit challenging for me, is to unhook this Molex connector here. Yeah. So it is the gray and yellow one. So we're going to unhook that, and that's pretty simple. And then the last thing we're going to do to get out the mechanism is we're going to use either our nut driver, or you can use a large flathead screwdriver to take out these screws that go into the playfield. So do that. The work continues even during filming, of course. In the background you can hear the gang working away. So now I'm just going to take this out carefully, avoiding the edges of that board, and there's your drop target assembly. Now that we have the drop target assembly out of the game, we're going to remove these 6 screws so that we can take the actual targets off the assembly and replace them with the new ones. So basically just use your Phillips head screwdriver here to do this. So I've taken the screws out, the 6 screws. Now I can take this board off, and then you can see here's what the drop target assembly looks like up close. And what we're going to be doing is taking off these little hardware pieces that are on these 6 posts. There's 2 posts per drop target. So there's a little trick to these, and what you want to be careful of with these little C-clips or E-clips that are on these posts is they can fly off very easily. So what I like to do is take the small flathead screwdriver and simply place it inside the top of one of these to pry it off of the post, and then you have it right there in your hand. Now, one thing you want to be sure to do as you take these off is don't create a pile. My recommendation is that you recreate the stack, if you will, of items just like this over to the side. So I'll show you in just a minute what we've got. So we have the CE clip, we have a washer, we have a spring, and then we have one more washer. This little screwdriver is very handy in this process. And again, we've got one more of these CE clips down here. So I'll use my screwdriver to help me get that off at the top. I'm going to put that here, and then I'm going to lay this next washer here, and now I can take the drop target off. And what you'll see here is the drop target is still attached, whoops, to the spring. I'm going to grab the spring, which just flew off. So the drop target attaches to the assembly down here. There's a little clip you can see here. this spot right here, you can see it where these two are attached. Basically the spring hooks on there, and then this little spot right here is where the other side of the spring attaches. So now as you can see over here, I've got my lineup. So this one will be at the very top, on the top post, then the washer, then the spring, then the other washer. So when I go to put this back together, I'm going to be doing it in reverse order. So I'm going to start at the bottom and then work my way to the top. That ensures I do it exactly in the same order. Okay, so to take off the decal from the target, here's what I recommend. You take this little knife or something sharp like this, and you just slide it under the edge here. Now these decals come off quite easily and stick back on quite easily. I found in doing this on the Led Zeppelin that it was a little bit more challenging, and so as a result we've added a set of our own decals to replace the factory version, so you don't have to go through this process. So there is the target with the decal. So you're going to repeat that process. All right. So now that we have this complete, what we're going to do is we're going to put this back in the game. So as a reminder, we're going to do bottom to top. So we're going to slide this drop target right back on here, just like this. And then the first on the bottom row, as you can see here, is the washer. And then in order to put back on our C-clip, we're going to take E-clip, C-clip, E-clip. To me it looks like a C. I don't know. Let me know in the comments. Is this a C or an E? Kind of looks like an E there. All right, so I use this and I simply push it on to just get it started. That's all you really need to get it started, is to use those needle nose pliers, and if you can get it started, then it's just a matter of pushing it on using either the screwdriver or pulling it on using these needle nose. So that's how I do this process. It's a little bit of getting used to, but once you get used to it, it's pretty easy. There we go. So that one's in place. Now, one of the things that I'm challenged with today is I'm using a pair of needle nose pliers that don't have any of the teeth here, so it's kind of sliding, so it's not working quite as well as it would be if I was doing it with some of those with teeth. All right, so now we're ready to move to the top. So we're going to do washer, spring, washer, and then on this one what you're going to want to do is same thing, but I want to push these down a little bit to give you some space. And then as you can see here, on these posts, there's a little line here, and that's where you're going to be sliding in your C-clip. And so that helps you know that you're in the right spot. And actually those are on the bottom as well. So if you get those right in there, that thing just slides right on. It's like, I wouldn't say it's like butter, but it is pretty easy. All right, so now the spring, let me show you here how you put that on. I like to start with this up here. So you're going to put it on this little attachment here, and then stretch it down and put it around the bottom. So all we're going to do is repeat that process 3 times. So making sure, again, just to recap, you follow the same order, bottom to top. You slide your C-clips into these little grooves, and that's pretty much it. And at the end of this, we'll have our drop targets assembled just like this, looking like this. All right, so as you can see, now we have the drop targets fully assembled. And pull them into place, just like that. Tap them, that's how they go down. And then we're going to just put this board back on as it was, and what you'll see is that it doesn't line up. If you're concerned about which kind of the orientation is, it doesn't line up except for the correct way here. So once you get it in the correct way, you'll be able to see. And then what we're going to do is we're going to take our screwdriver and our screws. And if you're me, you have a struggle with this. I doubt you will. All you're going to do is screw these back in. And what I'm thinking is that maybe if this job doesn't work out, maybe I could assemble these for the Stern Pinball Company or the Jersey Jack Pinball Company or the Spooky Pinball Company or any pinball company that's looking for drop target assemblers. They're not doing too bad. All right, so after we get this back on, we will put this back in the game. Okay, now we're going to put the assembly back into the play field. And the best way to do that is to start with the targets and kind of roll it in like that, and then you'll be able to get it around the board more easily. So what I would encourage you to do next is to attach the screws and then do the attachments to the wire harnesses. Okay, so now that we've got this assembly in here nice and tight, we're going to reattach the wiring harnesses. So this one is going to go on. It only goes on one way, but in case you're confused, there's these little feet that you catch your finger on if you pull towards it like that on your finger. Those go towards the board, and the little silver spots you see on the outside, which are actually where the contacts are, go out on the outside of the board. So you're going to attach that again. And then we're going to go back over here, and we're going to get these two little Molex connectors we unplugged earlier. And you'll notice that there's a pointed side on both of them, so that's how you fit that back together. Get that nice and tight. And now we're going to lower, then we're going to put in the, we're going to put in the illumination. I almost forgot. So, for the illumination, what we're going to do is, this uses our what's this called? This is called the General Illumination Matrix bulb, and we're going to use this to light up the targets. And basically, this is a replacement bulb. Now, I've done other videos on this. There are also instructions on our site, so about how these work. But basically, what I'm going to show you here is how to put this on, and then you'll be able to see where I'm going to attach this bulb. So there's a piece of heavy-duty 3M tape here. You're going to take off the adhesive backing. Now, I use a little knife to do that because this is probably the hardest part of the assembly, is taking the little adhesive covering off. It's because the tape is very strong. So what you want to do is you want to line this up in between these two T-nuts here that are right behind the target on the outside. And I'm going to drop it on the floor. And then what you're going to do is you're going to attach this right here so that the light is shining into the drop target. And when you attach this, you're going to want to make sure that it's not touching the drop targets, but it's nice and close. And then you're going to want to hold that down and push it nice and firm, because the way that this tape activates is by the amount of pressure you put on it. So if you put some good pressure on it and hold it in place, it'll be nice and firm. So there is a general illumination bulb right here, which is nice and handy. And what we're going to do is we're going to unscrew that from the playfield. We're going to take out the factory bulb, which looks like this. We're going to set it aside. We're going to put in this matrix bulb. And then I like to push the little wires that are in that bulb down a little bit so it's nice and it's closer to being like the original bulb. And then we're just going to attach this, reattach this back, the bayonet into the game using our nut driver or a flathead screwdriver, and then you are set. Now the nice thing about taking these out is whether we're doing this on this game, Avengers, or we're doing it on Led Zeppelin, which is right here, it's the same process. You want to use the same techniques in terms of laying out the hardware, putting it back on in reverse order. And once you have that handled, it's really just probably a little more time consuming than some installations, but it's pretty simple. So let's take a look at what it looks like in the game. Alright, so now we've got the playfield back in place, and you can see the drop targets here. And if we start a game, they'll pop up, so you'll get a chance to see that. Just a moment here. Try not to drown you out with the sound, but you can see the illumination, how nice that looks. It's a pretty cool look compared to just the stock factory black targets. So